Minecraft's new update is kinda broken, full of bugs, glitches, and weird stuff you would never expect, but it's not all bad. There's new illegal items and even some crazy new farms that are possible, so let's check out every new bug in the Garden Awakens update. Starting off with the major features, the Pale Garden biome is far too rare and oftentimes tiny, so you're unlikely to ever find one, even if you travel thousands of blocks. A huge biome like this one is incredibly rare, and telling by the sentiment online, it seems like hardly anyone ever finds one even a fraction of this size. It seems like a lot of people are finding biomes with literally just one tree and no creaking heart, or a very small biome that has just a couple of trees and also no creaking hearts. I mean, seriously, what's even the point of a biome that's just one tree? It's kind of like, what? What makes the biome generation bug even worse is that Bedrock Edition has significantly less creaking hearts than Java Edition. So in Java Edition, there's about a 20% chance that one of these trees would get a creaking heart in it, and on Bedrock Edition that's around about 10%, but what's even worse than that is that Bedrock Edition only checks the northwest quadrant of the tree. So if you look at the 2x2 of the tree, it's only going to check this one little corner right here to try and place a heart, which significantly reduces the amount of hearts that you can even get in this biome, since it's not trying to put any in the other three spaces. So these two compounding factors, along with the biome size, significantly reduces the amount of creaking hearts and creaking that you can get, and also makes it much more difficult to get the resin on Bedrock Edition. So if you're playing the game normally without using chunk base, you might be exploring tens of thousands of blocks in your Minecraft world to find a reasonable sized biome that actually happens to have a creaking heart in it, massively increasing the size of your Minecraft world. By the way, if you haven't been using chunk base, please do. It's the best way to find these biomes. They are way too rare as is, and you can save yourself a lot of time. Do you like insanity? Because I like insanity. Let's throw some infestation on these creakings, and you'll see that it's, well, it's chaos. We love it. So this is one of the best things that you can do with the creaking in the update, and it's 100% not intended, but you know what? You should do it anyway. Because who doesn't love bombing the entire world with silverfish? Jeez, this is a horrible idea. So this is really two bugs in one. So you can put the infestation effect on the creaking, and then when you attack this guy once every 5 seconds, there's a chance for him to spawn in a couple of silverfish. But it turns out that the pufferfish actually attacks the creaking and gives him like the poison or whatever. But of course he's immune to damage, so he just like ends up summoning a ton of silverfish. Now this is not nearly as fast as it could be due to that 5-second cooldown. But we got 120 creakings in there, which results in, you could totally use this for an experience or a slime farm if you wanted to, but it's not going to last since it's definitely a bug. We have a new illegal item in this update that you can get from Woodland Mansions. There's a small chance that in the loot chest you can find an efficiency 1 golden apple, which is pretty cool. So this is just a regular golden apple, but it has efficiency 1 on it because Bedrock Edition does cool things sometimes. So this is supposed to be an iron axe in the slot, but throughout the updates it changes to a different item. So we've had all the different types of chain armor get efficiency 1 on them. Some people have even found netherite in here, which I don't know how that's possible. So something cool about this is it actually looks like the enchanted golden apple rather than a regular golden apple, because it has the enchantment glint from efficiency 1 on it. But if you eat it, then of course you only get the 2 basic effects from a regular golden apple. So it's not actually the enchanted one, even though it is enchanted, if that makes sense. So I'm adding this to my collection of illegal and cursed items. As you can see, we've previously gotten leather armor of efficiency 1 on it, even netherite boots of efficiency 1. So now we have these normal enchanted golden apples. By the way, if you want to see every cursed and illegal item, block, and mob in Bedrock Edition, I made a 3-part series on that, and there's a lot of crazy stuff. So on to some of the many bugs with the creaking. There's a bug where this guy does not immediately attack you. So if you're looking at this guy and then you turn away, he'll just kind of walk up behind you and then stand there for a second, and he won't actually attack you. As you can see, it takes a little while. Also, I would consider this a bug where you're looking away from the creaking, but you're in 2nd or 3rd person view and he still moves. He's on my screen. He shouldn't be able to move. I guess if you want the combat with the creaking to be a little bit easier, this bug probably doesn't bother you. Back to some bugs that actually affect gameplay. There's a bug where the creaking will just immediately despawn if you leave the game and rejoin. So if you're in a pinch, you can combat log, get rid of the creaking, and save yourself from a bad situation. As you can see, we rejoin and the creaking is gone and all those guys over there are respawning. So it's not a permanent fix. They will respawn very shortly, but you can give yourself a little bit of extra time to save yourself. So there's a bit of a weird bug where the creakings will all spawn during thunderstorms, even though they should only really spawn at nighttime. And if it happens to turn into a rainstorm, then all these guys will just die basically immediately once that weather updates. So kind of weird. You could technically farm these guys during the day as long as it's thundering. So this is a bug that affects the trident killers, creakings, and resin farms. So if you are not looking at this guy, like he's able to walk around and he's not frozen, as you see, he doesn't get pushed through blocks on a piston like this. But if you're actually looking at him in survival, then he freezes up and he actually moves into blocks to the side there, which causes him to glitch out of kill chambers and out of trident killers. And if we look away from this guy, as you see, he can just straight up walk out of there. Yeah, that's right, I caught you. Get back in there. So this is kind of really annoying, and it only affects survival builds. So the solution to this is to just not look at the guy while he's in a kill chamber, and then he won't glitch out. And it works perfectly fine, actually. Okay, now this is a bug that I'm actually kind of upset about, because it severely limits what we can do with creaking resin farms. So if you're playing on Java Edition and you have an explosive crossbow like this one, if you shoot this at a creaking, that actually counts as a player attack. As you see, we got the particle trail there, and it even spreads a bit of this resin, as you can see here. Lovely. I love it. It's so good. But if we go over to Bedrock Edition, as you see, the firework crossbow rockets do not damage the creaking or act as a player kill, so it doesn't spread any resin, which might not seem like a big deal until you're trying to make really big resin farms. Wow, this thing is actually really loud. So on Bedrock Edition, if you want to attack a bunch of creakings like this, you pretty much have to use a potion or a piece of TNT in order to actually attack them and have them spread the resin, as you can see up there. If we light off a firework like this, it does not act as a player kill, neither does it act as a player kill or attack from a crossbow, which significantly limits what we can do with these resin farms. And the great thing is, Java Edition doesn't even need the firework feature because they have sweeping edge. They can just hit all of these guys at one time with one hit, and it just spreads a bunch of resin everywhere. We cannot do that on Bedrock Edition in any way unless we use potions or TNT, which cost a ton of gunpowder. So if they fix this bug with firework rockets, that would actually be amazing, and it would make these things much cheaper to operate. Or, you know, they could just give a sweeping edge. Right, Mojang? You could just give a sweeping edge, right? Right? Those are all the bugs I consider kind of major for the creaking, but there's also quite a few smaller bugs as well, like the fact that they just cannot spawn on layers of snow. So if you're in a snowy area or you're trying to do a creepy Christmas thing, they're not going to spawn on these snow layers. You have to actually give them a little bit of room of no snow in order for them to spawn, as you can see here. It's pretty mild, but it's also just kind of silly. There's also a mild bug with the creaking where when it's invisible, you can't see its eyes. This is unlike other mobs like Enderman, where when they're invisible, you still get their little pupils there. This also applies to spiders as well, which I love. Another pretty mild bug, but the skulk sensors cannot detect resin spreading. So if we attack this guy, as you see, it's going to spread some resin, but the skulk sensor does not detect that. And really, this is just Minecraft having like near infinite different systems and mechanics, and they all need to interact with each other perfectly. And you know, oftentimes when they're adding new features, there's just little oversights and mechanics that they forget to add, like this one. There's also a bunch of other bugs with the Pale Garden biome itself. So for example, if you're playing in an older world and you try to use the command locate biome Pale Garden, it might take you to somewhere where there should be a Pale Garden, but instead those chunks are already generated and you have something like a dark oak forest, so it won't actually take you to the proper biome, and this can happen a ton if you've already explored your world. There's also a problem where singular dark oak and pale oak saplings will both accept and consume bone meal, even though they shouldn't, because it's impossible to grow these things unless they're in a 2x2, so this can result in some lost bone meal either from manually bone mealing them or inside of tree farms, which is a little bit annoying. If you want some more illegal items, it's super easy. All you gotta do is bone meal some of this pale moss, and then you'll get one tall, double tall grass. So if you look at this, it should actually be 2 blocks tall. If we pick block that, it's tall grass, whereas this one is the short grass, which is supposed to be 1 block tall. Now, normally when you place this stuff down, as you see, 2 blocks tall, because Well, it's tall grass. It's supposed to be tall. This one, it's very broken. So there you go. New cursed block for you. Another kind of weird one for you. The hitbox of the moss carpet is just huge. Look at that. There's a giant square going around this thing. And it's even worse for the tall one. As you see, it's got the hitbox of a full block when it just really should not. So if we go over to Java Edition for a second, you can see that the hitbox of the moss is much more reasonable and much smaller. And it actually used to be like that on Bedrock Edition at one point. So they broke it. So there's a little known feature of Ravagers where these guys are supposed to break every single plant that they run into. However, as you can see, all the plants from the most recent updates going back a little while. We even got mangrove propagules in here and the cherry saplings and the pitcher plants, but none of those things get broken by the Ravager, even including the new eye blossoms and the pale oak sapling. And this is once again just a reminder that Minecraft's a giant game with a lot of mechanics and features in it, and sometimes the devs forget to add all the new features to all the other features. It's a complicated game. Another little bug with the woodland mansions is these things can generate with the resin bricks in the loot chest, even though they should not be resin bricks. They should be the resin clumps, because those could actually be used to make a creaking heart with, or you could just melt them down and get the resin bricks. Another thing you might notice is that horse armor Z fights in this update, or in this case, it might just completely unrender on this guy. This horse is actually wearing armor right now, as you can see there, but it's just gone. What happened to you, my dude? That's kind of sneaky, I guess. Well, it's not appearing on this horse either, and I just summoned this horse. So I don't know what the problem is. It just is not working. Bedrock Edition, yeah! The crossbow rockets on Bedrock Edition do not explode on impact. So you can see if you shoot it at the ground, it just slides for a while, then explodes. And if you shoot it at an entity, it just goes through the entity and explodes way far behind it. On Java Edition, it explodes on impact. That way you can actually use these things for combat, like they're sort of somewhat intended. As of right now on Bedrock Edition, they're really just for fun. There's also another hitbox bug with the resin clumps. So if you put one down, as you see, it's a very thin, small hitbox like it should be. But then if you get two of them, it turns into the hitbox of a full block, which is kind of crazy. Now, this also applies to the glow lichen as well. And if we take a look at Java, as you can see, this is what it should look like. It's just a series of very small hitboxes. Kind of a fun bug in this update is that you cannot starve. No matter what you do, you'll always be at about 3 hunger hunches right here. This is a crazy POV. I look super tall, just like real life. So if we run around with speed at 20 right now, you can see that we've starved down to 3 hunches, and then we're never gonna go below that. So you just don't need to eat in this update, which is kind of fun, unless you want to regenerate hearts or something. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Guys, we solved world hunger. Mildly related, but you can eat apples while at full hunger because Bedrock Edition, this is because of the golden apples and the enchanted golden apples. You can eat these whenever you want. So they're not actually different items, they're just a variant of the same item, which is kind of silly. Kind of a fun bug with the creaking. If this guy is moving to attack you, you can actually hit him with knockback and keep him away from you, even though he doesn't take any attack damage or fire damage or anything like that. So naturally, I wanted to try this with knockback 32,767, and as you see, he's just gone. He goes so far that he actually despawns and we get a new one. This bug has been reported by a ton of you guys in the community, but apparently Riptide 3 has been nerfed by about 25%, which is crazy. So if we stand at Y62 and we just Riptide straight up into the air, we go up to about Y93-ish. Whereas we should go up to about 102, which is crazy. So a big nerf on Riptide for seemingly no reason. And that's all the bugs I got for you right now. If you like this video, then drop a like, share it around, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.